Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. You all must have heard stories about spaceships and UFOs, but did you know that there are some people in the world who have been kidnapped by aliens? Today, we're going to talk about 5 such people who were abducted by aliens. Before we move on, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like and share the video, otherwise you might be the next case. The cases we're going to talk about now are all real-life cases. The first case is Betty and Barney Hill. It was 10:30 p.m. on September 19th, 1961, when Betty and Barney Hill were returning home from their vacation. Betty and Barney lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, USA. They were both well-known people in their town. Betty was a social worker and Barney worked for the United States Postal Service. They had both spent their holidays in Niagara Falls and Montreal, Canada, and were now on their way back. The weather was great. A cool breeze was blowing. There were winding mountain roads and a quiet, starry sky. Betty was enjoying the weather and looking out the window when she saw a light in the sky. At first, she thought it was a plane or a star and the light wasn't moving at all. But suddenly the light started to hover and flicker in the sky, and it looked like it was coming after them. Betty, frightened, told Barney to stop the car. Barney put the car on an emergency stop and tried to look at the light. Just then, the light came closer and closer to them, and he realized that what he thought was a plane was not a plane, but something like a flying saucer. Barney pulled out his pistol and saw through a pair of binoculars that there were probably 8 strange-looking people in the spaceship. Just then, he heard a message: "Stay where you are and keep looking." When Barney reported all this to the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, he said that he vaguely remembered that the aliens were wearing black clothes and black hats. After that, Betty and Barney didn't remember what happened. They were both in their car, and a lot of time had passed. They were both very confused and felt very strange. They figured it was getting late, so they should head home. Even after reaching home, they were feeling the same strange discomfort, but due to not remembering anything, they both went to sleep. After sleeping, Betty has strange dreams in which there were alien-like people with big eyes who were communicating with them without speaking. She had such dreams for 5 nights, which she tells Barney about, and Barney also started having some strange thoughts. They both thought they should talk to someone, and they had a hypnosis session on themselves which revealed a lot. Betty sees in her session that she is in a spaceship whose technology is very advanced, and the same big-eyed people are looking at her. Barney also sees the same thing in his session, but he also sees that the aliens were doing some experiments on him. He saw that they were examining his private parts. The strange thing was that there were no marks on his body from that experiment. Barney also drew a drawing of those aliens during that session. This was all covered by a lot of news channels, and the area where they were kidnapped by the aliens became quite famous because of this incident. The second case is the Pascagoula abduction. On October 11, 1973, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were fishing in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Hickson was 42 years old and Parker was 19. While fishing, the two saw a strange glowing light. At first they thought it was a plane or a police car light, but after a while they saw the light coming towards them, and they saw a very large, strange-looking plane or spaceship landing. They described the craft as a metallic object like a football about 30 feet wide. As the craft approached them, both said they were suddenly paralyzed and unable to move. 3 robot-like people or machines emerged from the craft and approached them, looking like humans, but wearing something like spacesuits. The aliens were about 5 feet tall, and their skin was blue. Their hands were like humans, and there were no expressions on their faces, just big eyes. The aliens spoke to them telepathically and quickly picked them up and took them to their spacecraft, where they underwent some kind of medical procedure and were scanned with a beam. After some time, both were dropped back off at the riverbank and the craft flew up. Both immediately reported the incident to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. When they went to the sheriff's office to complain, they had puncture marks on their hands, as if someone had drawn blood from their arms. Initially, the police were skeptical of the incident, but they paid attention to it and took both of them for a polygraph test. However, the results were inconclusive, but both passed separate polygraphs, which further fueled discussion of the incident. This story also became very famous in the media, and many investigations were done. Over time, there were no major changes in Hickson and Parker's stories, and both maintained full confidence in their experience. They also did hypnosis sessions in which further details were sought, but the story remained the same. The third case is the Exeter incident. It was the night of September 3rd, 1965, when, at around 2 a.m., Norman Muscarello, a 17-year-old boy, was returning home after meeting his friend. He saw a large glowing light circling in the sky around him. At first, he thought it was a plane, but when the light came to him, it became clear that it was something else. Muscarello said it was a heavy, bright red light that was hovering above the trees and moving strangely in the sky. Distraught with fear, Muscarello went to the Exeter police station and reported it. After some time, Muscarello noticed that several hours had passed, and the time he was remembering was very different from the actual time. Officer David Hunt initially ignored Muscarello's words, but when Hunt and another police officer, Officer Eugene Bertrand, went outside the station and looked, they too saw the same glowing light that Muscarello had seen. The two officers decided to go to the spot where Muscarello had seen the light. They too saw the same light moving strangely. Over the next few days, several other people also testified. These witnesses had also seen the same or similar light, and they too had reported missing time. People said it was a large, bright, round light that was moving strangely. The strangest thing was that the people who saw the UFO did not hear any sound in it. Even though it was quite large and making its strange movements, there was no sound of any kind. The Exeter incident was well covered by the media, but it did not become as famous as other UFO incidents like the Hill abduction. Local newspapers reported the incident well, and later UFO researcher John G. Fuller wrote a book about it called The Interrupted Journey. This book described the Exeter incident in more detail. No one has yet been able to understand the truth of the strange movements of the UFO and the missing time of the people. The fourth case is the Antonio Vilas Boas abduction. This case is different from all the others. Antonio Vilas Boas was a 23-year-old farmer. On the night of October 15th, 1957, Antonio was working on his tractor when he saw a strange light shining in the sky around him. The light slowly descended, and what looked like a UFO stopped near him. Antonio heard no sound around the UFO, and he was terrified. When the UFO came to a stop near him, Antonio saw some people coming out of the UFO towards him. These people were humanoid, but their colour was blue and their eyes were quite large. Their faces were strange, and they were wearing very strange clothes. These beings took Antonio inside the UFO, where they performed a medical examination on him. During this time, they examined his blood, body, and many parts of his body. Antonio later said that they had a strange sexual encounter in which an alien female, which was very strange to them, was having sex with them. Antonio also stated that the reason for this encounter was to use his DNA in the alien race. This incident became a major issue, as it was the first time sexual relations were mentioned in alien abduction cases. After his experience, Antonio got out of the UFO and started working again. But when he looked at his watch, he realized that he had missed several hours. Antonio told someone about his experience, but many people could not believe him. He then recalled his experience through hypnosis and described the incident in detail. The case of Antonio Vilas Boas became a strange and unique example in UFO and alien abduction research. It not only mentioned the experience of UFOs, but also a sexual encounter which was the first of its kind. Antonio's experience became a mystery to many UFO researchers, whether it was true or his mind had been made up. Some people said that it could be the result of a mental breakdown or hallucination, while others saw it as a truth, in which they said that it was a way for alien beings to get their favourable support. The last case is the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter. On August 21st, 1955, J.C. Sutton and his family, who lived in the village of Kelly, were spending time outside their home at night. Just then, they noticed some strange lights flashing in the nearby woods. As the lights got closer, they saw a saucer-shaped UFO landing on a farm near their home. After this UFO, they saw some small, goblin-like creatures coming towards their house. These creatures were about 3 to 4 feet tall, and their faces were strangely coloured. Their eyes were very large and their colour was glowing, which made them look like green or silver lights. These creatures were roaming around the people's houses, and when they went inside the house, the Sutton family closed the doors of their house out of fear. When these creatures were roaming around the house, the Sutton family shot at them. They said that when they tried to kill these creatures, the bullets had no effect on them. These creatures roamed there for some time, but when they were shot at repeatedly, they ran back towards the UFO. It seemed that these aliens had come to take the Hopkins family, but Hopkins saved himself by shooting. The Kelly Hopkinsville encounter quickly became famous in the media and became a typical example for UFO and alien sightings. Even today, this case is known as a strange and mysterious event among the UFO community. There were some similarities in all these cases, such as aliens with big eyes and wearing something like spacesuits, seeing strange lights, blue colour of the skin. Many people find this imaginary, but only those who have experienced it all know how true and how false it is. Thank you for watching the video. Please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.